Cashomaniacs.
Geo Gearheads.
Welcome back to the Geo Gearheads, episode 481, wrapping up the first quarter of our 9th year. I'm Daryl W4, back as usual with Chris of the Northwest.
Daryl, it's so good to see you. I can't believe we've been at this for over 9 years. It seems just like last week we started.
Yeah, until you take a look
not.
at the gear that you've been using and realizing that it's like a decade old or more.
Like this microphone. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, this thing is like 15 years old, I think, because this was like the second microphone I had for podcasting.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
no. Well, okay, so there is some gear here. My compressor limiter gate, that's the same age as the microphone. I think I've upgraded my mixer once.
Twice at least.
Well,
you started off with that Yamaha.
Well, that's my audio interface.
Oh, okay.
And actually I went through 3 of those because the Yamaha started to fail. I had a Zoom that I had a USB problem and blew that out. So,
meanwhile, Pizza Ninja says that he loves the quarterly celebration shows.
nice.
But yeah, I realized as I was putting the show notes together that this is the last of our first quarter because next week is April 1st.
Ooh.
Which is our Foolish Casher show.
Have we ever had an episode on April 1st before?
We have.
Okay. I know we've been really close.
No, yeah, I think our first year we actually did we did the whole thing with the time travel caching.
Ah, yes.
So that was our first April Fool's show. The Foolish Cashers were a lot more fun though, in my opinion. Not that they weren't fun, but
it's basically my life.
Foolish Cashers.
Foolish Cashers, yeah.
But we need a lot more stories for those because we've only gotten like 1 or 2, I think, in.
Mm-hmm.
So, I've got some extra trackable things. I'm not exactly even sure what I have. I think I've got some of the little Lego things or whatnot. So I'm going to put up some of those. If you send in a story that we use on the show, then I'll pick a couple of those and give trackables to the people who submit them. So make sure to get us your stories of foolish caching.
Okay.
It's probably something you did, but you don't necessarily have to admit it.
You could always say somebody I was with, somebody in our group did this, right? You don't have to admit to it.
Right. And you don't have to name names.
Does everybody who submits a Foolish Casher story get a trackable?
No, because I don't know how many I've got.
Okay.
I know I have at least 2. I don't know beyond that. So at least 2 people will be getting something, and we'll figure out at random of the ones that submit what to do. So send those in to geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com by the what is Tuesday's date? That's the 30th, right?
Hold on.
I think so.
Tuesday is the 30th, yes.
30th. Okay, I had it right. So send them in by Tuesday the 30th to geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com, and we'll take a look at what we've got and put the best of them on the show, or the worst of them, I guess, depending on what you look at it. But yeah, we need lots of those stories.
That's right. I just put that address into the chat. So if you guys need to grab it, it's geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com right there in the chat. In fact, you know what? See, look, geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com. Just in case, one more time for those listening at home, geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com. Email now.
I'm not sure I heard that right. It's geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com.
Wait, I think it's geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com.
Got it. So it's geogearheads@cashomaniacs.com.
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Call now. Well, email now.
Email now. Operators are not standing by.
Yeah. Email servers are standing by.
Wow. How much can we beat that one?
One horse, Dead.
I think we need to bring in some assistance. So let's bring in tonight's guest, MC3 Cats.
Hey, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, and thanks for coming back.
Well, hey, thanks for bringing me. Let me come back. I love coming on the show.
Well, and we are very anxious to talk to you tonight about planning caching trips.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I'm told you are quite skilled at.
Well, I've had a little practice. Well, let's see. What was that email address again? No.
GeoGearheads at cachemaniacs.com.
It's already prompting for the correction emails.
Oh, nice. Now, I can attest that MC3 Cats is good at planning geocaching trips because I've gone out on a couple with him, and it's amazing. He's like, "Oh, do you want to come? Yeah, where are we going? Here, let me send you this." And I'm like, he's got it all planned out already. How'd he do that? How'd he do that so quickly? He just was talking about it.
Well, I was planning, that's pre-planning actually. And that's always that helps with having a successful trip. Obviously, it's not going to help you with DNFs per se. I mean, obviously, if you are planning a route, you do want to check the caches that are on the route. And if there's a number of DNFs there, you may want to pass on that.
Right.
But, in theory, you're going to pick the ones that have some recent finds on them, and you know that there's a good chance they're going to be there, so you limit the DNF possibilities. So that's part of the pre-planning. It's one of the things I like to do.
We actually wanted to talk with MC3 Cats because we get the feeling, and in fact, I have that feeling. I'm starting to get the urge. The weather's starting to get a little better. It was warm today, didn't rain as much. The daylight's getting a little longer. It's getting time for a road trip. And at least Washington State has entered phase 3, which I don't necessarily know what that means anymore because all the phases have been modified so much. I'm not exactly sure what phase 3 means anymore. But restaurants are opened up to at least 50% capacity. Hotels have opened up a little bit. So there's a lot more options now. Not quite as much as there was in the before times, but it's getting close to, when you go out on a road trip, you're going to have some facilities available to you that you didn't before.
Yeah. And that was actually the conversation on the last trip planning show was, finding those facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Always a challenge. Yeah. But there's an app for that too.
Did it actually
Is there
for it doesn't necessarily, there's a couple of them actually, but it doesn't necessarily have all of the toilets.
No, but in my paying gig, and not my WSGA gig, which is not a paying gig, I do deliveries, and having a nifty app that lets you know where the nearby facilities are comes in handy, and it works quite well when you're out on the caching trail too.
I would imagine that it especially came in handy if they were updating it with who had restrooms available during COVID, because so many were locked down. Pizza Ninja says that phase 3 equals profit.
Oh, nice.
That's for sure.
Exactly. MC3 Cats, we were negligent. We didn't introduce you properly.
Oh, okay.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. And, you're wearing a funny hat. Well, let me put it this way. You wear many hats. This happens to be one of them. Can you tell us what that's about?
Yeah, so that's the WSGA hat, and the WSGA is the Washington State Geocaching Association. I am the current president of the organization and have been for a couple of years now. So our organization promotes geocaching activities in the state of Washington, not to get confused with the other Washington, as we like to call it. That's what our organization is. We have chapter reps that are in different regions of the state. We hold events when we can hold them, which we just now can start. We do CETOs. Our APE event, if you're at all familiar with the APE event, that is our event that we host pretty much every year, except for this coming year and last year. Hopefully we'll have it in 2022. It kind of looks like things might be going in that direction. So when I'm not when I'm not the president or doing president duties, I am an avid geocacher. I've been caching since 2009. Yeah, so that's kind of me.
Nice. It seems like GSM times 2 says nobody can replace you. He just keeps getting elected.
Or no one just runs against me, as the case may be. But, apparently I'm doing okay if no one wants to run against me. So there you go.
There you go. And as a geocacher, you just passed a huge milestone.
Yeah. Just a couple weekends back, I hit 17,000 finds, and I celebrated it with a couple of geocaching friends. One of those friends also hit the 17,000 milestone. So we celebrated as a group doing the GC8 Neat. We did a little mini CETO, though it wasn't an official event, but we did a little cleanup along a riverbank locally here in town, and had a great time. The weather sucked, but we were under a bridge, so we weren't too wet, and picked up a bunch of trash and had a great time. So yeah, 17,000. That was a big number.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
That's more than double what I've got. So
more than 3 times what I've got.
Actually, I say that now I'm thinking, wait a minute, maybe I'm at 8,500 instead.
I'm sorry, my count was wrong. More than 5 times what I've got.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like we need to do a trip together there, Chris.
If you do a trip with me, I'll never catch up.
I guess I
have to do a trip
with him to all of the caches he's already found.
Yeah, there you go. I'll set the routing
all the
up
active caches.
I'll set the routing up and everything, and you just go find them.
Okay.
And I'll be there for moral support.
Oh, wait. It's not more than 5 times. It's 4.8 times. I feel better now.
All right. There you go.
Those decimals make all the difference.
Oh, yeah. You got to include the decimals. Don't round up. Not in cases like this.
Round down if you can, actually. It's really 4, not 4.8.
Yeah, exactly. 4. That seems achievable.
Yeah, diamond ammo can.
Yeah, Pizza Ninja says, "Congrats! When do you get the diamond ammo can?"
I'm still waiting for HQ to send that to me. It hasn't happened yet.
Oh yeah, these goals these rewards come directly from HQ. They know exactly when you hit a milestone. Yeah, all that's popped up on screens there. I'm convinced of it.
I could just see all the alerts going off now. But they had to take that stuff home, so only certain employees know now.
Oh, right. So only Brian.
Maybe.
Right? Yeah. That. What else does he do during the day?
Well, I'm thinking it might be Rock Chalk. He's now the one responsible for that.
Could be.
He would just consider that a challenge.
Right. That's why you haven't gotten it yet, because he has to beat you.
Somebody has more cache finds than me. Hold on, I can fix this.
Oops. You lost a few hundred somewhere. That happened. Doggone servers.
Yeah, I don't think he has access to that. I figure he's just going to go out and, use it as a challenge to find more himself.
Yeah,
he's just going to go out and do a 500 find weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. And not log it until you're ready to claim that next milestone and then beat you.
Then poof.
Yeah.
Hey.
Here's my 1,500 finds to your 100.
If you have Rock Chalk on your friends list, the best thing you can do is to send him a screenshot when you're beating him on the weekly friends points. It's just a little bit of motivation.
I don't know that he really needs the motivation, does he?
No. Not at all.
Fine all by himself. I think it's great he's out there pounding the pavement like everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, he is quite the prolific cacher for sure. Anyway, let's get back to what we were going to talk about, which is planning those trips. So where do you usually start with your trip planning?
Generally I'm looking, studying the geocaching, the map, looking to see where I can make the most make the most damage on the map, in terms of turning those unfound caches into smileys. So I kind of look at the map and see where I can get the most bang for the buck. And if it looks like there's a viable route I can put together, then of course I'll start planning it out. And usually that means I'm going to pull up the Cache Tour app. I find that is hands down the best caching routing application there is out there. So if you don't have, if you're not at all familiar with cachetour.no, you definitely want to check that out. It's a fantastic app. It's both a web-based and it has a phone app. And I use both of them. I use the web version to plan the route, and then of course the phone version to use out in the field, so I can keep track of where my next cache is in the list, and it tells me if I'm ahead of schedule or if I'm behind. So those things are really, really helpful. But before I get to all that, when I find an area that I'm really interested in going to, I start looking at just all the caches in that general area. And one of the things I like to do is look to see if there's any puzzle caches that I may have already solved but haven't found the cache yet. Sometimes that'll happen where I've got a solved cache and just wait for the time that I get out there to find it. So if there's one that's in the area, hey, I'm going to look at that. Another thing I always do with every cache is check and make sure that there's been a recent find on it and there's not been a list of DNFs. If there's recent DNFs, then I really don't want to waste my time if I'm really trying to pound out 20 or 30 caches on a trip. Don't want to waste my time with DNFs. So when I'm actually putting my cache tour routing together, one of the things I'm doing is looking at the individual caches, not only where they're located, but also look at each individual one and see if there's been some recent finds or a bunch of DNFs. So with a puzzle cache, same thing. I'll take a look at it, see if it's been found anytime recently, and if I can fit it into the routing, I will definitely dump it in there. Another thing I do is I will check on Project GC, which is another of my favorite web-based geocaching websites. Actually, if I could share this screen here, I'm going to bring something up here. If I can do that. No, that's not what I want to bring up here. Hold on. Here we go.
The challenge is finding what you want to share.
Yes, exactly. Let's see if this will work. Am I sharing this? This is what I want to share here. So I don't know if you guys can see the Project GC website here.
Yep.
Can you guys? Okay. So on Project GC, there is this. Some of you guys are probably familiar with the challenge checkers. So this is where if you're trying to find a checker for a challenge cache, you can do that. But another nifty feature on this is map of challenge caches. So you can go on here and set your exclude levels and such, and then run this really neat map, and it will show you which challenges you qualify for, that you've actually can go and find, that you've got the little green check mark. And you can see on here on this map, I got a couple of them here that I qualify. So this particular area, I could probably show you the cache tour now. So this is my I have this upcoming trip here of all 35 caches, and it's all along this route here along Interstate 90. So I've mapped all these out. This is a frontage road along the interstate here. So one of the things I want to do is, now that I have an area and I have the caches figured out, I want to check and see if there's any challenge caches that I may qualify for. Now, that particular area I was showing you over on Cache Tour is over in this area between Ritzville and Moses Lake. So all along this red line here, that's where those caches are. There's nothing really over there that I qualify for. However, in the lovely town of Ellensburg here, I have this cache right here, this Kittitas County 25/2 challenge, which, as you can see by the little green check there, I qualify for this. So if I want to, I can go ahead and pull this cache up and take a look at it. And that's Interstate 90 right there. So I'm going to be blowing right past it on my way heading east towards Moses Lake. So this one I would definitely want to add to my list because I qualify for this one and might as well grab it since I'm going to be driving by. So I would just insert that at the beginning, or I could do it at the end too, because I'm going to be going past it twice on my trip out and then back. So here's the routing here that I did on Cache Tour. And this is interesting because this particular trail along this Schrag Road here, the cacher who put all these out, the caches alternate different sides of the road. So just purely for a safety standpoint, I don't particularly like crossing a road when I'm driving down it, hitting caches that are so close together like this. It just, just avoid the potential of having injury or getting hit. What I like to do is to have the caches be on the right side of the car. So I routed this particular route so that all of my caches are going to be on the right side of the car. So first cache number 1, it's on the right side. Then I skip these here, skip a whole bunch. And then here's number 2, which is the next cache on this trail that's on the right side of the car. So then I just take this, go to the very end, and then essentially I'm flipping a UE here at number 10, and then I'm whipping back and I'm hitting the others so that I end at 35, which will be the last cache on the, going westbound, going back the way I came. So it's more efficient that way. There's not a lot of backtracking. And for a linear route like this one, it's really pretty easy to do that. Gets a little more tricky if you've got a trail that let's say this trail split and went down Highway 21 for a ways, and then made the bend here and went through Lind and then came up 395. Now it's a little more. There's a little more going on to it. It's not just a linear trail. Then you've got some of these other little side roads, little farm roads out here that could potentially have them. So I try to route these so that I'm not backtracking, as much as possible, because I kind of take the cache runs as sort of a challenge. Okay, I'm going to find 30, 40, 50, how many ever caches I have in my thing. And I want to try to do it, in the time that I've given myself. If I've said, okay, I've got an entire day. So particularly this particular trail, this is a pretty good trek out from where I live. I mean, Moses Lake is close to the center of the state. So I would be dedicating an entire day for this. I mean, Spokane is right up this way here. So I'm more than halfway to Spokane, hitting this trail here. So I'm definitely going to allot an entire day for this. The drive out will be a couple hours, and then the drive back will be the same. So I try to, plan it so that I can make sure I hit them all, and not have any left over. So that's kind of how I do the routing. And again, there's, each run's going to be a little different. Obviously, if you're doing a horseshoe style, you may want to route it slightly different than what I've done with the linear one. So that's kind of what I do with that. In terms of physically planning a trip.
Before we get into that, though, GSM times 2 is wondering if you routed as a round trip, would Cache Tour create the route with the caches on the right side?
I have not tried that. I suppose it probably would if you're really dialed into Cache Tour. I mean, obviously people use that and know at the back of their hand. I definitely am not one of those where I have, complete knowledge of it. So there's my little disclaimer there. So maybe it would, but personally, I like to have control over the route. So I don't know that I would necessarily want, the website to do it for me. I'd much rather say, okay, I may want to do this cache first and then that one, and there may be a reason somewhere in there for that. I don't necessarily want to leave it to the website to tell me, okay, here's your round trip. You can hit those on the way back, because there may be a reason why I want to do them out of order for whatever reason.
So MC3 cats.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I don't know why I just got tongue tied on that one.
That's all, folks.
Okay, I had a question there too. So you go and cherry pick which caches you want to do in what order?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
I go in and pick them. Yeah, because there may be a reason why I want to skip something, or if I were just to leave it to chance and say, okay, I want all, I want all of these in this string, dump them in there. It may not be in the order that I want. Or let's say there's another good example is, and I think on that trail, if I remember right, there was a puzzle cache on there that was part of that series, which I had solved. And I want to make sure that one is slipped in there. And I'm trying to remember where it was in the route, but there was one in there that SPNS fans put as part of the trail. And I think it had to do with the Yellowstone Highway or something. I can't remember what it was. I routed this thing a couple weeks ago. In fact, I was going to do this route this week and it didn't happen. So I kicked it out another weeks. Which is great about Cache Tour.
In the chat says that they don't think it does the round trip.
Yeah, I didn't think it did.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
And again, I mean, it's such a wonderful website and app. It's one of those don't leave home without it kind of things. If you're going to do a cache run of any size, especially like one of those, because I think if you're doing even like a little mini power trail like the one I was showing you, you definitely want to route that. Because again, if you're trying to cut out backtracking, then you're going to want to skip a few because they're going to be on the other side of the road, or you may be going the wrong direction and the cache is, so that's why I love that.
Mm-hmm. So Segehov says the routing engine we use will just see the coordinates and sort by distance along the road.
So there's the answer, which is kind of what I figured, is it couldn't tell what side of the road it was on.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, if you look at that map, again, 528 feet apart, you really have to zoom in to really see, which side of the road they're on. And on that one, because SPNS fans, did it so that they're on both sides, which I think is great, because then you've got something to do heading back.
Yes.
You're not just jumping on I-90 and then hightailing it westbound. You actually get to do something on the way back. So it's kind of nice. I like that,
Yeah. Especially if you're riding a bike or you're with someone, it's nice to have that return trip back to the starting point, rather than, okay, I'm 25 miles down the road. Now what?
Right. Exactly. I think it's, it just adds to the day, and it just makes it, it's an efficient routing. And that's, I really like that, because I figure, okay, if I'm going to do this, I set this goal for this day, I'm going to find X number of caches. I got it routed as best I can, going to avoid as many backtracking as I possibly can. I'm going to get more bang for my geocaching time. It's all about the fines, right? Isn't it?
And then
somebody say that.
It's all about the numbers.
Go.
Or not. In my case, not. In your case, yes. Since you're at 17,000. And I'm, 4.8 times behind you. Not about the numbers for me, because I can't catch up. If I was close, then it would be all about the numbers.
Well, and the other nice thing about using the cache tour is obviously you're going to bring friends with you on this run, so you can share that with folks, and that's another awesome piece of using cache tours. You can send in, add invitees to it, and they can look at it. And if you have it set right, you may have somebody say, "Hey, look, there's a puzzle cache that I have the solution for, and it's not too far from where this route is," so they can add to that. Mm-hmm. And if you get into a rhythm, I mean, that's especially a trail like that, you get into a groove. It's going to likely be similar hides on a trail like that. So you just groove. You know what the next cache is going to be. ET Highway was very much like that. It was little rock cairns along the side of the dirt road. Mm-hmm. Where the next cache was. It was kind of mindless, but fun at the same time, because it's, you grooving. Hey, how many can we find in an hour? That kind of thing. So you get into a groove with it, and having other people with you doing it is a lot of fun. So not only do you want to plan, make sure you have all your caching bag is up to date. You've got everything in there. If you got trackables you want to drop, you want to make sure you have those. Fresh batteries if you're taking a GPS. And on that particular trail, I definitely would. Even though you are next to I-90, but just to be safe, you may have cell coverage issues. So I'll dump this onto my GPS for sure, just so I have it as a backup if I need to. So fresh batteries for that, flashlights if you need that, if you're going to be out there. Snacks, provisions, especially if you're going to be in a fairly remote area. That area there between Ritzville and Moses Lake is not a whole lot in between the two, but because you're near the interstate, you could probably get away with not bringing a bunch of stuff because you're not too far from a store. But again, if you are looking at trying to maximize your time, and you don't want to have to pull off the trail to go get lunch or something, then obviously bring stuff with you, so your fluids and solids, if you will, water if you're going to be out in the summer at a time and you're going to be out there, because it can get pretty hot in that particular area of the state. Just again, plan for all that stuff. Plan for the potential,
exactly,
so that you're not out there and go, oh crap, I left this or I left that, or oh, I'm all out, my batteries are done and I don't have any backups or whatever.
Well, and more than likely you're doing a trip by car, so you've got the extra space to carry the 10 essentials with you, right? You've got extra clothing and food, water, flashlight, navigation. You're taking your GPS along, other things that you need with you in case something happens. Your car could break down, right? And if you're off on a side road, not on the main interstate, you might have to spend a night in the car.
Or over in there, you could get stuck on that side of the state if it's in the winter time.
They close the path.
I-90 has a tendency to close for weather-related issues or avalanche control that they're doing. And I've actually had that happen to me where I got stuck over there. And thankfully, this was before caching, but I was stuck over there for work. I was going over to Leavenworth, which is 2 mountain passes to get to. And on my way back, they had closed the pass because there was just a ton of snow, and they were concerned about avalanches, so they closed it down overnight. And I got stuck over there, and I didn't have a change of clothes or nothing. So, I wasn't really. It wasn't planned to be an overnight trip, so I kind of had to rough it. Oh well. The company paid for my hotel room, so it wasn't a big deal at the end of the day. But like, circumstances out of my control, essentially. So try to add some control, have that stuff if you need to. If you blow a tire and you don't have a spare, you may that may throw a monkey wrench in your entire day. You may have to end up spending the night over there, possibly. So those sort of things, I don't think you could over prepare necessarily.
No.
I mean, you could try.
And trying to over prepare is never a bad thing.
Yeah, because you're ready to take
Mhm.
on whatever that comes your way. So, full tank of gas would be another thing. When you're, that's another thing I like to try to do before I hit the road is have a full tank, so I don't have to stop somewhere along the way and get gas. It just, those sort of things. Make sure the windshield washer is full if you're driving over in an agriculture area in the summertime. You're going to have a lot of bug kill. That kind of stuff. Just be prepared, and you will have a better event. You'll have a better trip. You'll find the caches, hopefully all of them. And if you get done early, then hey, that means you get to find more on the way back, which happens often. I always love that. Hey, we're gonna be in Ellensburg. There's a few caches. Let's pull off the freeway, stretch your legs, and grab a couple of caches. It doesn't hurt. Remember your pin. Yes, absolutely. Your cache bag should have a couple of pins in them.
And it doesn't hurt to have things like the essential logs and that kind of stuff for doing cache maintenance if you need to.
Mhm.
O-rings, if you're doing a lot, you're going to be hitting a lot of bisons, most likely. Have a set of O-rings to bring with you to replace them because they will wear out.
That's a
The
really good
checklist
one.
feature, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know there was a checklist feature on Cache Tour.
Yeah, there is a checklist feature. Yeah.
Oh, I like it.
And yeah, so Cache Tour has that checklist feature, and admittedly, it's been a couple of years since I've used Cache Tour because we haven't had road trips in a couple of years now. But yeah, it did have a cool checklist that again is shared so that you can get everyone up to speed on what's being brought and who needs to do that.
Yeah, you want to plan for the weather, the time of the year, springtime in Washington, you kind of get a little of everything thrown at you. So, especially lately, it's been a lot like that.
By the way, GSM Times 2 says there's an O-ring store in Washington.
There is.
Yes.
Clarkston, Washington.
I just learned about it.
Down in the southeast corner of the state, there's an O-ring store. Yeah, they sell all kinds of different O-rings for various platforms. I bought quite a few for the different bison tube sizes. I'll have to give you a set there, Openhour.
Yeah, why not?
So you have it. And I use those. I go out and find there's a cacher called Geo Basset Hound, and I've been finding a lot of her caches lately, and they're all bison tubes attached to little Basset Hound figurines that she hides
Nice.
all over. Yeah, she's probably got, I don't know, 30, 40 of them out. It's wild. But they're all bison tubes or scuba tanks, and I'll come along and the log is wet. It looks like the O-ring's shot. Let's replace it. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Thanos X said, at what type of trip would you plan on having a satellite phone or a satellite messenger with you?
Man, if you were going to be deep in the bush, I would say something like that. You would definitely want something like that. Great example would be the ET Highway, particularly the more northern part. When you get up and you're away from everything. There's nothing out there. I remember when we did that trip, one guy had I forget who he was with, which cell provider, but he was getting a weak signal from probably some interstate somewhere that was miles and miles away from where we were, but the rest of us had dead air. We had nothing. So in that situation, yeah, thankfully one of the guys in our crew had at least some cell reception. The rest of us were, the cell phone was basically useless without any cell reception. So if you're going into some serious backcountry, if you're getting on a Forest Service road and you're going to be way up in the pines, deep in the pines, where you're going to be away from any interstate, there's not a lot of civilization where you're going, then yeah, you may want to think about having a sat phone. just so that you have the ability to be in communication with somebody. And then also another good thing is if you're going to do something like that, let somebody know. If you're going to be tearing off deep in the woods, you want to definitely let someone know where you're going. Hey, we're going to go up to XYZ peak, or we're going to be out in this area. Just let them know so that, and then of course, what is your, estimated return time? Hey, we plan to be back around, 7:00 or whatever, just so that that person knows.
Yeah.
And if something
text your spouse, text a friend, leave, a napkin note on the table, something. It doesn't have to be elaborate. You don't have to fill out a 3-page form telling people where you're going, but just, leave something so that should something happen, your car breaks down, right? And you're just happen to be in a spot without cell reception. Your loved ones are going to worry. Just let them know where you are.
Yeah, the Garmin InReach, that's another nifty item to have, so that if you are in one of those areas that someone can find you.
Yeah,
If
and
you're
just sometimes too says he keeps his InReach in the car all the time, which is a nice thing to have as part of your emergency kit.
Yeah, right there with the first aid kit, sure.
Yeah.
Which is something else you definitely want.
But make sure to take it with you if you're leaving the car and heading out on the trail.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Or have in my cash bag over here, I've got a little mini one that I carry. So I've got the big one in the car, and then I have a smaller one in the bag. So that, if you end up finding that inevitable blackberry vine where your cash is hidden, and you end up, leaving a little DNA behind, then you're able to at least, get a Band-Aid on there, maybe some antibiotic ointment. So you're not losing fluids, as they say. So, so that kind of stuff. I mean, you should always have that. I mean, I always carry that in my bag. It's there if I ever need it. Thankfully, I've not had to be in that situation where I've got a huge gouge on my arm, and but it can happen. So plan accordingly, right?
And I was just going to say this, but Thanosec put it in the chat. Leave a copy of your cache tour route with a loved one would probably be a good plan.
Yeah, exactly. Share that with somebody who is not going with you. That's not a bad idea. Hey, so-and-so, me and this group are going to take off. Hey, but I'd like you to have this so you know where we're going to be in case something should happen.
Yeah, and if they can then tell the search party, hey, the last time I heard from them was about here, they'll know you're roughly in between these points, and that's narrowing down that search. So, saves everyone a lot of time.
That's, again, it's planning. It's pre-planning, and not only your cache route, but just all the essentials that you need. It's important because you can plan to the gills for a caching trip, but inevitably there's that situation where something may happen that you didn't think of. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, Chris, how is this name pronounced again?
Segehov.
Segehov, thank you. Says that you can make your trips available for non-cache tour users. So he gave a link in here.
That's pretty cool.
And that way they can see your route. So that's a great way to go. Yeah,
I think that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's something you can text to whoever that person is, email, whatever, and then they have that to forward on. So even if they can't, if you're on the phone or whatever, they can say, "Hey, go here."
That's fantastic.
That's nice. Again, a new thing I didn't know there was available in Cache Tour. It just gets richer and richer every time we look into it.
Yeah, it really, I think it's, I can't think of a better app for geocaching than that one for just routing, and it does so many cool things. So,
okay. He says that the link was just an example. So I gather you put public in the URL to get the link.
Gotcha.
That's great. Yeah. So if you're not using that one, you really should. It's a wonderful.
Yeah.
A wonderful
And-
program for sure.
And as you check off each of your stops, it lets you know, if you're ahead or behind of schedule and what your estimated finish is. And also you can set up the app on your phone to open the caches in whatever preferred program you have.
Yeah, you can use it to route too, which is another nice little feature. So when you say, okay, I've arrived, click it, I've departed, then you can click on the next one in the list and hit map, and you can route to that next cache. So you could really almost use the cache tour to do it all, other than logging or doing a field log, or if you're using your GPS, I suppose you wouldn't necessarily need that. You can use your GPS to log it and then upload them later if you're a GSAC user, which is another nifty tool as well. One other thing I neglected to mention was, speaking of GSAC, is if you are doing a location-based challenge, and I'm thinking Delorme County, cities and towns, Thomas Guide map challenges, and I know various states have those. GSAC has a really awesome macro called challenge, and you can run that challenge, and it's basically a la carte. So it'll show you a list, and you can pick which challenges you want it to run for you. So for instance, here in Washington, we have a cities and towns, we have a county challenge, and we have a Delorme challenge. You can run all three. And what it does is it pulls up a Google Earth map, and it will show the grid of all the Delorme pages. It will also show you the cities and towns is based on city limits of, 40, 50 odd towns that are in this challenge. And if you're going to an area that you haven't been to before, good chances are you probably need a cache in that county, or there may be a town that's nearby that you need to find, or it may be a Delorme page that you need. So that app will, or that macro will run it, and you can look on Google Earth and go, oh yeah, I need page 245. I'm going to be in 245 or near it. Let me go see if I can add a cache, maybe veer off our route, or maybe when we're done with our run, we can zip up here and get this city or town or whatever. And then you can kind of, multitask basically.
I love
We
that.
are reminded in the chat that you can actually log using the Cache Tour app for
There you go.
doing that now. So that's awesome.
Cache Tour does everything.
Mhm.
It does.
It really does.
But it still doesn't stop the DNFs. That's what I need.
Well, yeah, there's that. But you can, like I said, you can limit some of the DNFs if you plan accordingly and not put those caches that have. I mean, when I am sorting through the caches I want to go find, I really look at if there's been some recent DNFs. I take a look at the cacher. How many fines have they had? What's the difficulty rating? If the person's got 10 fines and they're trying to find a 2.5 difficulty, that cache may actually be there. So, I take that DNF with a bit of a grain of salt, because the cache could very well be there. It just may be hidden really well, and it might be over that person's, geocaching level. So I may not necessarily just drop it off the list. I may include it and give that one a go, because we might be able to find it. And if it's a lonely cache where it hasn't been found in over a year, then I may definitely want to try to make a go at it, because it may be there, and people are passing on it because of the difficulty, or perhaps it's a terrain thing. So when you're sifting and sorting through the ones you want to find and you want to route to, I don't always just automatically go, oh well, there's been 5 DNFs or 3 DNFs. So I want to look and see who DNF'd it. But somebody that's got 5,000 or 6,000 fines, then they've obviously are pretty seasoned cacher, and chances are there's that cache may not be there. And I'll look at the rating and see how difficult it is. If it's a 1.5, and if someone with 5,000 fines hasn't found it, it's probably not there.
Good chance, yeah.
So I'm not going to waste my time looking for that one. But if it's somebody with 10 fines and they're doing a 2.5 difficulty, and they were caching with somebody that had 20 fines, and they also did well, it may be there. I'm going to go. I'll take a chance, and I'll give it. I'll give it a fair amount of time to search, and maybe I'll find it. But if I don't, I mean, hey, it's no big deal. I just won't. In my mind, I won't, plan a ton of time on it. Set up a limit of 15 minutes max.
Right.
If it's not there, then it really is gone. Then you let the CO know, hey, and the COs may be looking at it going, well, okay, this guy's only got 10 fines, and it's a 2.5, so maybe it's there. They're not going to think much of it. But if somebody comes along with 5,000 and go, yeah, I looked for 10, 15 minutes and I couldn't find it. Well, that's probably a clue that the CO needs to go and check on it.
Mm-hmm. So Segehove writes in, this has become a Cache Tour episode, even though we didn't intend it to be, just because it's a great app. Segehove says the app will display if and when your friends have found caches. You can click their name, see their log, or just call them and ask to eliminate a DNF. That doesn't always work. I did a phone a friend not too long ago, and they said, "Yep, that's where it should be." Apparently, it's missing. So, it was supposed to be an easy find, and I spent way too long looking for it.
Mm-hmm. Been there.
It's back now. I got to go.
The PAFs are great.
Yep.
That's your last line of defense on a possible DNF.
That's right. MC3 Cats, thank you for joining us this evening. And folks, I hope this has your mental juices flowing of thinking of how you can travel now, move around a little bit, maybe just within your state, within your city, a couple hours drive away, and start looking into geocaching road trips.
Got to get out, get the wheels turning.
All right, thanks again. And next week is our Foolish Cacher show. Remember to send in your foolish caching stories to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Again, that's geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. Then the following week, we're going to be talking about scuba caching again with Merlin 1392. And we've got another randomized show coming up. That's going to be April 15th. So make sure to get all of those comments, feedback, all of that kind of stuff in to geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com for any one of those shows.
That's geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com. We can do this all night long, folks. Now, but until next week, make sure you check the Cachemaniacs website at cachemaniacs.com for more on the Geo Gearheads, including show notes for this and all of our episodes. We love hearing from our listeners, so leave us feedback. You know the address by now, right? geogearheads@cachemaniacs.com or through the many channels of social media. Your support helps keep the Cachemaniac shows coming. Please consider becoming a patron through the link on our website to support the Cachemaniac shows. Geo Gearheads is produced by Chris Umfenauer and Daryl Wattenberg. The show's copyright 2021 by Daryl Wattenberg. All rights reserved.